but just make sure that you're reminding your clients that real estate is completely dependent on your personal needs and your timing. So, regardless of the election, people are still moving, people are still buying and selling. I think that that's important to remind yourself. If you're trying to take a break because of the election, I'm saying right now, get back to work. Because there are still people out there who need your help.
Literally, yes.
Hey, welcome back to Real Estateable, your go-to podcast for raw, real, and relevant information in the real estate world. Today, we are surprisingly talking about politics with the election year and kind of how that affects real estate as an agent, as a client, as a buyer, as a seller, kind of just walking through what changes can come from an election.
Well, in being in real estate through many other elections, I feel like the uneasiness of this year has made this feel like extra uneasy. So that's why we felt like it was super appropriate to be talking to you guys today to help navigate that. Like, let's get real about, our own emotions about that, but even the clients and potential clients that we're talking with on a daily basis.
All right, so we want to put out a little disclaimer that this is not a political podcast episode. It's not who are we voting for? Who are you voting for? This, are we Democrats or Republicans? We're completely neutral, and we are just talking about the effects of the election on real estate.
Yes. And most importantly, have you actually gone to vote? So that would be step one.
Step one. I have not voted yet, but I plan to vote.
Yes. We all should be planning to vote for sure. So I feel like this year it has felt different than other election years. I don't know. We're going through a lot just as realtors, but this year has been a lot. And I feel like there's just been a lot happening. And so a lot different conversations in an election year than I've had before.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah. I think so too. And I think that election years kind of change the behavior of buyers and sellers alike. So I feel I've been having a couple conversations with some of my sellers who are feeling like buyers are waiting to pull the trigger until after the election. Are you finding that too?
Yeah, I think that that's definitely an excuse that you're hearing and seeing, buyers and sellers, just people making decisions. I don't know why though. I'm like, what magically is going to change? I don't know.
Well, I think people think that interest rates will immediately change once the election happens.
Yeah. I don't know. I've not seen that though.
No, I haven't either. But and there's no word on the street that that's happening.
Yeah, 100%. I think that just hesitating, like a hesitant behavior, is definitely the theme across the board. And I think it's important to know how to deal and respond to that appropriately for sure.
Yeah, I agree.
Do you think that, like, right now I'm like thinking through conversations I've had with clients and I think that even if they're not saying, okay, we're waiting because of the election, it's like, well, we'll check back with you in November.
Yeah.
Like we have it, but we're not ready to jump yet. We're not ready to make a decision yet. And I think a lot of the feedback that's happening right now on our listings, we're getting showings and kind of, I feel like a little bit of an uptick in showings, but then you go for feedback and it's like no decisions made.
Yeah.
Like everyone is window shopping or window talking, no decisions made. So I don't know. Are you finding this year that you're seeing people more stressed out than normal?
Yes.
Like,
I mean, just in general, regardless of the election, I think people are more stressed out when buying and selling. I do think though, the market slows down in the fall, in the winter months, regardless. And I think that if you're dealing with buyers and sellers, instead of talking about the election process and maybe the effects of that, maybe focus more on the holidays. Like, hey, I know it was really important to have a big Christmas party at your house. Is it, are we looking for a new home to create the space that you're needing? And maybe position it that way versus we're getting a new president.
Yeah, because it's actually not even happening.
Yeah.
With the election anyways.
Yeah.
So, if for sure. And I think that, like, in general, agents are more stressed, buyers and sellers are more stressed, like the society is more stressed. Like there's more things causing this uneasiness. And so like trying to figure out how do we react appropriately to that when I ourselves like we're more stressed than normal.
Yeah.
Like we're dealing with the adjustments as well. So what do you think that you've done so far like in the last couple of months? Because I think it's been more amplified. It definitely has been the tone this year, but it's been more amplified. How are you talking with clients that are feeling overwhelmed, like that they're like decision fatigued or they're procrastinating? Like what are you doing differently, or what kind of advice could you give someone that's kind of going through the same thing?
I feel like it's going to be so person dependent on
Mhm.
that, but I
Mhm.
think just first of all, always acknowledge what they are going through.
Mhm.
We went to a convention in August, and he was like, put your consumer hat on, put your client hat on, and just kind of put yourself in those in their shoes of whatever they're if they're buying or selling, it doesn't matter. But just acknowledge like, hey, it is a stressful time. It is I mean, as far as stress goes, I feel like you can have two separate conversations. So stress, you know, figuring out what the stressor is and problem solving. We are problem solvers. And I feel that regardless of the election, there's no stress. There's not a stress option that you can't overcome
Yeah.
as an agent.
Yeah.
I think procrastination, I think that can be solved with data. Hey, historically, homes are taking longer to sell in your neighborhood in the fall months. It'd be better if you list sooner. Um, just kind of providing the data, or like, hey, homes typically sell um, for more in the spring. Maybe you want to wait. Maybe you're pushing someone in that direction. So I think that just using data for procrastination and stress can be beneficial.
Yeah, well, and I think too, like you were saying, the event that we were at, it was just super eye opener. Like it doesn't matter how we feel, and it doesn't matter why they feel the way that they feel. It's our responsibility to figure out a success plan from there. So it has nothing to do with our emotions going through essentially kind of the same type of societal anxiety that we're facing. Really, we as professionals have to figure out, okay, there's a problem, we're going to solve it, and we need to be thinking like they are. Thinking like not, oh, let me just fix it. Let me fix it. There's so much more complexity to
Mm-hmm.
to things right now. So I think that's super great advice. And really was a kind of a light bulb that went off for us as well too.
Yeah.
Um, what do you think about media, like the distractions that
Mm.
are happening? Golly, I feel like, with everything with August coming and going, with the lead up to that in our industry, with just the media in general. I mean,
It's
can we cancel them? Like
Yes, we can cancel the media. I think there's like
yeah.
so much information going out to consumers. I mean, look back at the NAR settlement.
Mhm.
People were, I think more so agents and people in the industry were more, I don't know the word I'm looking for, but just anxiety about it
Mhm.
versus the consumer. You would bring it up and they're like, wait, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
I've never heard of
Agree.
that. But there are those people who learned about it on the news and have all of this information where, people are a little more hesitant now, I would say, to sign the buyer's rep agreement, for example. But I think that, you put on one news channel and they're so Democratic. You put on another news channel, they're so Republican, and who's right and who's wrong. And I think that there's just so much information. It's like information overload, and then also probably some misinformation because they're trying
Always.
to bash each other and who's
Yep.
better and whatever. But I think that confuses people. It gives you kind of like, well, maybe I should vote for this person or that person.
Well, and I think just like you have, in this day and age, and like in this society that we're in right now, the distractions really can take away your focus. Like, it takes quite a bit for you to make a decision, with the change in interest rates, the rise of affordability, and cost of living and all of that stuff. And so when you look at that, it's like, it is hard to stay focused without all of the noise that is surrounding all of those things, for consumers to go, okay, great, I'm ready for a move on top of everything
Yeah.
else. Let's do this. I think that the media right now can be super distracting, and we were actually just talking about this recently. We were talking about people waiting too long to make decisions. It's almost
Mm,
like they're not preparing because they're procrastinating in this, or they're just putting it off, or they're staying, distracted or not focused on it. And then it's like, oh, We got to go. Like it's time to go. And especially for us in a military town, there is a deadline that is looming quite honestly all the time for every person. And we have been seeing people making more last minute decisions, almost like, well, we have to move now, instead of it being very thought out and I would say just planned, methodical decision making, which is kind of what we specialize in. And we talk so much about that. And so I think about this and I'm like, okay, we're doing more of an effort in the fourth quarter and checking in and touching base with everybody, cleaning our CRM and scrubbing through everything. And those are just simple conversations, which I'll tell you what, the more that I'm just checking in, the more that people want to be talking about politics and what's happening, the conversation just naturally goes to where that's at. But I think in doing those check-ins, there has to be a real conversation about if moving, buying or selling is in the next 6 to 9 months, so that you as a professional can start to help navigate that. So people are not talking about that. They're naturally already jumping to the conversations that they have anxiety about. And I think that if we could be putting on our radar those things that we could be charged responsible for, we can really help see some successful outcome for a lot of these folks that aren't really thinking like we should be thinking.
Yeah, I think just keeping their personal goals in mind at the forefront when maybe they might be too distracted by the noise and the media and whatever job, kids, life, whatever they're stressing about. I think just keeping their goals crystal clear and just reminding them, hey, you guys really wanted to, be in your new house for the holidays. Where are we at with the house prep, et cetera? I think just reminding them of what's important and kind of drowning out the noise is
100%.
Yeah.
What are you doing when you have, and I think about like just certain generations that like to talk, like this is an exciting time of a cycle, I guess you could say. What are you doing when you're doing check-ins or you're talking with clients and they bring up politics?
I fire them. No, I'm just kidding.
We done here. We done here. Yeah.
Honestly, I feel like my clients I haven't really had to have those conversations. When people have brought it up in the past, I kind of just like laugh. I don't really take a side or, just, yeah, kind of just fake it until you make it on those conversations. Because for me, my brother is like super history buff and politics and all these things. And I'm like, that's just not interesting to me. It's not something I follow super close. And so it's really easy for me to direct the conversation out of politics because I just don't even know what to talk about. Yeah. Honestly, if they asked me a question, I'd be like, I don't even know who would have said that. Like, I don't know who's
I don't know what opinion I would have if I even had one.
Yeah, I think it's easy for me because I don't have a lot of facts. Again, I'm the data person. So if I don't have the data to talk about it, it's
no
I've
been mine and this is just from like the last 30 days of doing consistent accountability and checking in. And so I have that polar opposite. I'm like, I'm actually not calling about that. I'm actually not texting or checking in. And so for me, I have just done the one-liner. And even after the election, like, I'm just glad that we have an answer. Like, I'm glad that we're moving past this. Like what's the right thing and the wrong thing? I mean, these are all humans that we are electing as officials and just in general, it's done.
Well, yeah. And I when you say that, I think it's easy to just say, hey, I think it's going to be great. Whoever gets elected is going to do a great job. I hope they do a great job. I hope they carry out what they said that they're planning to do. I hope they do it. I hope they accomplish all their goals for the country and just be positive about whoever's going to win.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. It's just kind of like, okay, it's like a decision just needs to be made. Like we could be dragging this out, for however long. But yeah, I agree. I think that has been super helpful for me where it's just like, hey, the end is in sight. Yeah. Meaning I'm not engaging in this conversation.
Yeah, I kind of just think like acknowledge whatever they're saying, but just don't get into a debate about it unless that's your thing and you want to debate.
Oh gosh.
I mean, I wouldn't.
Wrong industry then.
Yeah, wrong industry. But I do think you can acknowledge people's concerns, thoughts, tactfully without giving your opinion on specifics.
Well, and I heard recently too, like using it being like, no matter what way the election goes, I'm committed to helping you find your next home. Like
Yes.
no matter no matter what, no matter who you support, no matter who, like I'm committed to helping you and your whoever find where the next right landing place is for them. So I think that you can always, script trained on these one-liners of like redirecting, pivot, let's turn, next question.
Yeah.
Next subject for sure. So all right, well, let's take a break and we're going to talk about, okay, the election's over. Now what?
Are you looking for ways to become more efficient and save time in your day as a real estate agent? We've got the thing for you. We have created 18 done-for-you email templates that cover the entire process on the buying side and the selling side. The best part is that this is only $49 and includes customizable email templates for the process to get you through start to finish with your buyers and sellers. Head over to realestateable.com/email templates, and that's where you can find them.
All right, so let's dive in a little bit to the post-election reactions and dealing with clients.
Maybe not so happy with the results.
Yeah, I mean, it could go either way. So, I mean, it's 50-50. Either one could win.
Yeah.
Half the people are going to be upset and half the people aren't, right? So, what do you think it takes in an agent if the candidate who your client wanted to win doesn't win? Like what?
Yeah. Well, I think it's just like, okay, so we need to have compassion and we need to like dig to the depths of our souls sometimes to find that what's important to our clients needs to seem relative and important to us, right? And I find sometimes too, I'm like, I'll get to the end of a transaction and I'm like, dang, I really like kangaroos. Like you spend so much time and you could become so invested in it. And so not to say that it's going to be that extreme, but I think that we are chameleons in this industry. And I think if you are leading your business with compassion for people, things that upset your clients, you're going to find a way to really kind of get onto their level and then find a way to power through with that. And so I think that is super, super applicable in this scenario. It's like, okay, you can relate with them, even if you don't agree, even if it's the opposite of who you wanted, voted, whatever, you can agree. You can find, that connection, the compassion, and then really find, if they're asking for, housing assistance or something specific with that. Okay, great. What can I do to help you, in a positive way? So that would be what I would say is like, just finding that relatability, finding a way to problem solve,
getting them the resources they might need.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it's always super important to, like one, it's not overnight changing, and it's not like, I don't know any president in history that we've seen a complete, 180-degree turn, during, the flip of the switch kind of thing. And so I think just being encouraging to, it's going to be what it's going to be. But it's so hard. So many different generations don't think that. And it is like straight to their core end of the world. And so that is tough. That is something to really be thinking through and then kind of preparing for that, you might have to have some feeling conversations and not necessarily.
That is not.
Yes, I know.
I can have feeling conversations with clients, I think, but
yeah. But then don't expect anything else after that. I know that's why we're like struggling with what do you do when someone's upset and not, you're dealing with like not what they were hoping, crawl in a hole. So many things as far as that goes.
Yeah. And I know like talking with clients too, some people are, wanting to wait until after the election. Totally fine. Maybe that's somewhere where you get data and you say, hey, historically, after an election, homes sell for less, or after an election, homes sell for more, or whatever it might be. Just giving your client the data might help them make a quicker decision. So whether it's to wait or whether it's to move forward, whatever it is.
Well, being able to pull that for your area specific too is going to be super helpful. And I think that too, like what you're saying is like giving them the data that they need to make the best choice for them. We've talked about this several different times. Like, okay, it's not that making the hey, move forward choice, but maybe the right choice for them is to wait for whatever reason that your area specifies their specific needs and the outcome. So making sure that it's data driven and not emotion driven on that. But I also think through this whole process, how many people have you been keeping track of I need to check back in with them? Like the election's over, knock, knock, and here's my check-in. How many people are you really going to circle back around to? So I think you need to be thinking through that list of, I'm waiting for the election. Okay. Ta-da, election's here.
Yep.
The world didn't fall apart, kind of still in the same spot. Who are those people that you need to be connecting with now that we're post-election?
Okay, so you have been in real estate for more elections than I have been. So is there anything that you've seen as far as like any changes? Like, have you seen in the post-election, have you seen the effects of that? Like, no change.
Not necessarily, not a visible change.
Yeah.
It's not like you're sitting here going, okay, that's where the bottom fell out. That's where the interest rates got cut in half, or that's where the interest rates doubled, or that's where prices were slashed, or prices, quadrupled. It has not been anything extreme like that. I think it's going to be very much the same. There might be a little bit of a dip, but how many times has that happened in the last 6 months? There's been like the little bit of a reprieve, and then it quietly goes back up. So, depending, how closely and finitely you're watching that, maybe, but not anything noticeable that I could say over, how many elections? It's a lot. 5, presidential elections.
I was going to say like 4 maybe for you.
Yeah, 4, 5, 20. I don't know. A lot. Enough to know that, like, okay, it was not, that wasn't the best choice to be waiting.
Yeah, and it's not like a night or day kind of thing as far as the real estate market goes.
No, absolutely not. So I think that, with that, you're looking and you're having these conversations with folks. Okay, and now it's like, what's the next, what is the next media driven anxiety topic of conversation that can be poured into us as humans? Okay, just wait, it's coming. We don't know what it is, but it's coming. But I think it doesn't matter. Like, none of those things matter, because that's just the reality of the society and the world that we're living in. And we've seen it. Us as professionals have been under attack this entire year. And so you really have to just be getting into, what is it as a consumer? How can we lead with compassion? How can we have conversations that really are connecting the needs and the wants of these people? And circling back, because it's our responsibility, making sure that we're staying ahead of, the end of the world type situations with them.
Well, and I think that can easily be overcome by just educating yourself on the policies that relate to real estate that are in with the election, if that makes sense. So what are the candidates proposing? And this is coming out right at the election time. So maybe once we figure out who wins, maybe go and find out what that candidate stands for as far as housing goes. Are they going to be are they going to be changing capital gains? Are they going to be changing like the FHA loan, or like different housing grants and things like that? So I think just staying on top of what the changes are, I think, can also help your client just by being like, hey, so-and-so is implementing this and that. That might help you next year.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, like, we have to remember, not one person ever is going to be making decisions without things being passed and going into effect. So I think it is a great thing to be going, okay, this is what they're planning to do. Here's the possible outcomes, and here's where it would benefit you or not benefit you to be waiting or making a decision now.
Yeah.
So I think all of those things, analyzing those, but then reminding them, it doesn't matter. Just because Joe Schmo is now in it, and it's not Bob the Builder that's in it as the president, just because it's one versus the other doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to see overnight changes, or even those changes of the policies that they want anyway. So
yeah. Who knows if and when it would even happen?
Yeah, 100%. But that's so hard for a consumer. Especially those that are so charged by emotions, or not emotions, by elections. That might have been a Freudian slip. The emotions of the elections. No big deal. No big deal. So I don't know. As far as like trends and like what I've seen over the years, I just feel like, no.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same. I've only this is my second election in real estate. So I don't feel like 2020 there was a crazy impact.
Yeah.
I mean, the interest rates went down eventually. So that was a crazy impact. We did have that.
Yeah. But do you think it was election or
No,
like it
I
wasn't?
think it was more COVID situation.
It was just like it wasn't the coattails of an election type scenario. I think, yeah, it's so many different rabbit holes that could be going off on that. And I think that really just to wrap everything around, I think it's just, looking at staying resilient in
real estate.
Yeah. Yeah. And just focusing on your clients' long-term goals, your own long-term goals, like really keying into those things. I don't think there's another way to do it without losing your mind.
Yeah, literally.
I mean, so much uncertainty. I feel like there's just not another way.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, just support your clients through the uncertainty always, regardless if it's an election year or leap year.
Yeah. Well, and I think that we have been focusing a lot more on preparing clients. So it's not like, hi, hello, how are you? Sign here. It's like, let's get you prepared. At some point in time now or 20 years from now, you're going to make an X, Y, or Z decision. So let's talk about that and get you prepared. And so I think that there's a lot of power in someone feeling like they're prepared, that they have freedom of choice, that they have everything that they need to make a great decision for themselves. So really, even if it's not like we got to go or not, there's so many different clients that we have on the books right now that it's like, we're nowhere near a paycheck. Let's be real. We're nowhere near a paycheck, but we're nowhere near even a sign in the yard or starting to even show. But those conversations, I think it's like the long-term gain.
Yeah.
Really.
I mean, elections are so significant in I would say even the world. Like it's not just the United States. But just make sure that you're reminding your clients that real estate is completely dependent on your personal needs and your timing. So, regardless of the election, people are still moving, people are still buying and selling. I think that that's important to remind yourself. If you're trying to take a break because of the election, I'm saying right now, get back to work. There are still people out there who need your help.
Literally, yes, for real. And I mean, honestly, we're negotiating some friggin' killer contracts right now. Not so great on our seller side of things, but man, you have some sellers willing to pretty much give anything in our market, at least, that it's just like, you might be missing the mark. You might be missing the mark.
I have the flip side.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. I have the seller who doesn't want to budge yet.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, we're waiting for the election.
But yeah, I have some a couple sellers who are like, I think it'll pick up after the election, and I'm fine letting them
figure out whether or not it will or it will not. Yeah. I think that the biggest thing though is that you just need to be staying informed. You need to be adaptable. You need to be able to be empathetic to the people that you are serving. All of those things is going to make you great, not only in elections, but really just any adversity that you're going to see, honestly, in this society.
Yeah.
I want to say industry.
In
life, honestly, it's just the time of where we are, and we are so built for a time like this. So
yeah,
honestly.
Yeah, I agree. All right. Well, what would be a couple takeaways that you had that you would want the listeners to walk away with today?
Oh my goodness. I just feel like, honestly, just like your mindset, I feel like a lot of the energy that we bring into things is going to determine the outcome that you're getting. So the conversations, what you're putting into those conversations, the follow-up, the responsiveness to, I'm going to wait, I'm waiting to the election. I'm waiting for the president to get sworn in. I'm waiting. And the more that you're pouring into that, I really feel like you start to see outcomes based off of the energy that you're putting in. So just really focusing on this, because I know for me, being in business, like this is for a long time, a semi-long time. It's tough right now. Like it's like your mindset it's tough. Like I was just looking at one of my real estate coach who just did a thing about mental health and the percentage of agents who are choosing and making not so great choices to end their lives, and the mental health crisis that's happening. And I think that when you look at this, you guys have to be right first.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so to do all the things we talked about, you really have to make sure that you are taking care of yourself, your mental health, to be able to be there for your clients. So for me, that's just a continuous reminder I feel like we have had, starting with the Danny episode on mental health, so many small reminders of like, we can't step up and be there for clients and be that sound decision maker, helping make sound decision making if we really are teetering ourselves.
Yeah. So. I would say, kind of like piggybacking off that, is to just stay positive. When you're talking with your clients about politics or just in general, remind them of their goals, because they are their goals. It's not your goals. It's not the election's goals. It is their goals and timing. And just staying positive throughout that, and just reminding them why they called you in the first place, to kind of be that sounding board, that problem solver, just to, I don't know, just be there for them.
Yeah, 100%. And I think we talk a lot about know, like, and trust. Mm-hmm. And so don't take that lightly. If you have someone that's coming and putting essentially the what's next in your hands, they know, like, and trust you, and you really should be helping them bridge that gap through all of the emotions and thoughts mm-hmm. through the election, but really what's next. TBD, what's next?
Yeah, we'll see what's next. All right, guys. If you found this helpful, make sure you give it a download and a 5-star review. You can find us everywhere at Real Estateable, and we will see you next time.